The stats are saying that 65% of households are single mother driven.
66%.
66 or
Sure.
66. So it means that most black men, kids, are raised by women. Is it fair to say that women breed violent men?
Don't do that. Jeez.
So it's simple. So most households are run by women. The stats say 66%. Meaning, black men are being raised by black women. Are black women raising violent men? According to the stats as
Why are you looking at me?
So, I don't want to kill your stats. I once spoke to politicians about this concept of 66% of women are single mothers. They know the reason why those stats look like that, and it's inaccurate. Nurses in public hospitals advise mothers to only put their details there, because for looking for a grant, applying for a scale and those things, it's easier. So it's not factual that Umchita is not there. The other thing is African men are not raised to be present when the woman's giving birth. That's why the guys also won't be there when she's giving birth. It's taboo. It's a female occasion, this birth thing. It's only white people that are teaching us the father should be there and cut the umbilical cord. These are new things to us. The second thing I wanted to say was, going back to the stats I said earlier, I honestly don't think most men are bad. Number two, there's a very big danger in men not being present in their children's lives to teach them how men are meant to interact. Because mothers will raise their kids equally the same, which means when they get angry, they'll be angry the same. But now you've got a lion cub and a buck, being the girl, and this lion cub. And when he grows older, they both get violent, but he's got this extra stuff that he can't explain. And there was never a man that was there to guide him. Which, as a man, there's times when, if your sister hits you, you never hit back. Walk away, because we are dealing with a different type of creature. On top of that, I'm very scared with what social media is doing now, because I feel like it is further emasculating men, and especially black men, to a point where we're going to have feminine boys that won't be able to protect you when shit happens. And things you're looking for, plumbing, fixing the car, someone knocks at night, he's going to be just as scared as you, because there was never a man present. Are women raising monsters? I personally don't think so. However, I am aware that, as we said about the strong exploiting the weak, mothers traumatize their kids, even very much. And that may come out in certain ways. And I guess the absence of a father, and if your mom was toxic, could make a boy angry as well. But those are my thoughts.
Can I just weigh in on the situation? It goes back to the conversation we had about us women taking responsibility and accountability as well in the system and the cycle that is violent towards women and also towards men. Take, for example, when a boy does something that is of a violent act as a little kid, like you said, you were teaching your son what he did was wrong, what she did was wrong. But you find that women try to overcompensate for the fact that there is no father figure in the household. So they treat their sons with kid gloves. In them treating their sons with kid gloves can either go one of two ways. One, he becomes overly, and I'm sorry to say this, overly sensitive and too soft.
Overly feminine?
Overly feminine.
You can say
and
it.
And not even in a way where he becomes gay, but he becomes way too feminine and way too soft and sensitive, and weak.
No. Say it.
Yes.
Or he goes the other way, where he becomes extremely violent. Because now, our khalemela ngwana hasale munyane. Because you were treating him with kid gloves. Now, because ntataya haye katlu, ngwana etsa ntwe esi. Now, because he's a boy, and you're trying to compensate the fact that there's no man in this household, he hits your daughter. You know, as they grow, little things, the misbehavior in the school environment, in all of these things, you are treating them with kid gloves. So we as women, I don't think we are necessarily or intentionally raising violent men. But because us women, we are of a nurturing nature. That's just a natural thing. So with us, we are trying to we are trying to overcompensate the fact that there's no man. So we are treating our kids with kid gloves. And that's why we get, and I'm saying it goes one of two ways, really. You get an overly sensitive kid or an overly violent kid because now you don't have the equal balance. And I'm going to put this out there. If it was meant for us not to have a man and a woman together raising a child and raising a family, then I personally think in whatever creation you believe in religiously, culturally, then why do we need a man and a woman to procreate? There's a need for a man and a woman to come together to raise a seed. Now, because we are obviously living in times of single mothers and single fathers, and it's not necessarily because of our doing. We have a history, we know this.
Sure.
Our history is the reason we are in this situation. And now we are continuing with this cycle. And because we are continuing with this cycle, we are now adding these other factors of gender-based violence because women are now living as single mothers. So they have to raise this boy child in the best way that they are able to. And the truth of the matter is when we don't have male figures to come and help us to raise our daughters and our sons,
100%.
we are stuck with the situation that we are stuck in. So one of the factors we can look at when it comes to gender-based violence is the fact that our family structures no longer are what supposedly, because now I need to take into factor that people are gays and lesbians and queer and all of that. I'm just talking from a nature point of view. We are no longer a man and a woman. And I'm not going to take away from people who do not acclimatize themselves to heterosexual relationships. But we have those things. And
Are you going to speak for long? I just want to...
No, go then.
Something for us to consider is if single mothers are raising angry daughters because the father's not there and they end up taking it out on men or triggering them, who end up hitting them. Sorry.
No, okay, I'm gonna pick up off that on what you said. So, the single mother it's funny, this thing, in the sense that just because it's done doesn't mean that it's okay. Nah. I was raised by a single mother, but it wasn't okay, but I'm wired the way that I am, and the same applies with single dads. You know, just because you can hold your own, there are certain things that a child needs at different foundational phases that you yourself can't provide.
Ever.
So I'm gonna be very tough on all single mothers and fathers out there and say, it's not lost on you. You know you don't have a partner like that, right? However, you may have brothers, you may not have brothers, but there is a positive male figure in your life, mama. There's a positive female figure in your life, baba, that you can bring closer.
Sure.
To say, listen, I just need you to touch base here. There are things that are gonna be beyond me. And even in a household where dad and mom are there, they don't always get it right.
Sure.
However, from a nurturing this thing to grow point of view, there's very valuable lessons, cue daddy issues, mommy issues, and you know, we are sitting with the problem that we have right now.
it just goes back to what, I mean, it's a common saying. It takes a village to raise a child. And it goes back to what you're saying in terms of, yes, you might not have the ideal or norms of what a family should be, but it takes a village to raise a child. And I think each and every one of us, and anyone would be lying if they say they are not a product somewhat of their environment or the people who they're raised by, because no man is an island.
Sure.
So unfortunately, we are living in a time where some women decide, I don't ever want to get married, but I want to have a child. Sure. And they go for IVF and the whole process, or adopting, right? And we can't take away from their choice to want to have a child and not be married. But the truth of the matter is, a child needs both needs both space. It needs both models, roles in terms of a mother and a father, and bringing in whether it's a family friend or in terms of a male or a female that helps to raise that child. It takes a village to raise that child.
think
Give your kids as
the-
many parents as possible.
The problem
Yeah.
also comes in the sense that, you know, yes, parents lie. Parents.
Human beings lie, and they grow up and have kids.
Also, we come from a point of view where we think parents are smart. Some parents aren't. And that's just the reality of it all. And I think as a parent, no, really, as a parent, you have to get to a point where your child, single mother or not, you sit them down and you take them through their paces. I think that's another thing that makes us very angry. You know, I'm upset at a lot of things. You know, I'll just use the schooling system, for instance. Technically, read, write, count. In essence, that's all I really needed. Not that other nonsense that I went through.
Sure.
You know, but I was forced to go through it. But there comes a time when you as a parent need to sit down and be like, you know what? Your dad is not sure because I decided to raise you. Or your dad is not sure because, well, I actually don't know who he is. You know?
Jeez.
And not be ashameful of that. You know what I mean? Or, your mom's not sure because I cheated. You know what I mean? But so that these kids don't think everything's rainbows and unicorns, and because the world out there is tough, and the world doesn't care that you are treated with kid gloves. But when you look at it further, the reasons why we can't relate with each other is because now, being a guy who maybe was raised by a single woman, and you become a bit more feminine, your wife, having been raised by a single mother too, knows that a woman is strong. And you there looking to your wife and saying, hey, make a plan. Because that's what you know.
Sure.
That's what she grew up seeing. And she's like, I want a man. But you're like, but I'm a man. She's like, no, you're not. Because I'm making the decisions. And you're there like, well, okay. You don't have a point of reference.
Sure.
Why? Mama, you didn't, back there, you didn't give this guy a
didn't
role
find your
model.
fathers.
You didn't, you know what I mean? And vice versa. And now that's why we clash. Fundamentally, from a roles point of view, or from a, you know, I can't know what a man is if I never got an opportunity to be shown or say, hey, listen, or be exposed to such a space.
I think, for me, I'd like to approach the question of whether women are raising violent men from a different angle, to be like, are women actually raising their kids? Are any of our parents raising us really? If we look at who's shaping your thinking, which is what raising is, you know, that's what we're talking about. Who shapes your thinking, and it's mostly a screen or some person delegated to stand as an authority and impart knowledge to you. And then when you leave school, you go to your sports field if you went to a preppy school like I did, and have your extramural activities, or if usekasi, we are. So I've seen single mothers, and they're the only ones who can bring in income, so they're generally working, and generally more than one job. So they're not there raising these kids. That's the reality. Single mothers are not raising violent men because they're not raising anyone. Maybe a white man's child.
Jeez. Easy.
True.
No, it's true though.
Take it easy.
And they'll tell you the same thing.
More. Take it easy. Take it easy with the truth.
Right?
So all those of us who have jobs and can pay for CSU, you know, and the tragedy in that is you don't proof the person who's raising your child, whether it's a teacher who's appointed by the state to go back to what E-Man was saying, where I didn't need the personal opinions of my teachers along the way. But we no longer live in a way that is conducive to ubuntu. You know, and that's the reason why we're fucked, because we've got the land. We've got the land, it's just underdeveloped because the men aren't there working, because we're here in the cities.
Working for white people like our women are
100%.
raising white kids.
100%. So for me, it's that conundrum. No, categorically, no. Women are not raising violent men because women are not raising their own children. They're
Where's the
generally
violence
raising
coming from?
somebody else's. The violence. It comes from society. We're very American-based. We watch a lot of American content. We model our own content on American content.
That's true.
I've always found Europe to be a much better model for a society, although it's very sterile. But as far as a lot of different cultures in a condensed space, which is what we are in South Africa and Africa generally, Europe is a much better model. They're far more sophisticated than the Americans as well. America is a crude,
Unintelligent.
Ow.
they're very clever, but narrow-minded, which is also what I don't want us to suffer from, which is why I'm saying if we look at it from a third eye perspective, not mine, not yours, but a third eye perspective, and then we look at the context in which we're living in, you cannot say that the violence comes from any one specific place. It's because of bad communication, actually.
But generally, boys are
Because-
looking at black Americans on TV and
Sure,
saying, "I
so
wanna be
that's why
Tupac."
Black Lives Matter
Thug life, homie.
has gone around the world, is because we're predominantly taking Jewish material, I mean American material.
Easy. Someone edit that quickly.
Oh, sorry.
What's your thoughts?
The just back to that question that are women raising violent men, and also picking on to what Cameron was saying, that the women are not raising their children. But even within the problem, I see that's where the opportunity is. Still tying back to our conversation of you should have as many parents as possible
Sure.
that have your back.
And that's aligned to your beliefs.
Yes, they align to your beliefs, but I think that have your back is a more powerful than even beliefs, because sometimes your beliefs don't have your back.
Sure.
And that's where sometimes you need to be honest in terms of
That's harsh.
no,
Even your beliefs don't have your back.
Jeez.
no. That's where we need to be honest in
Yeah.
terms of. And I like how you are referencing even the European model, because Europe is a lot of small countries.
Sure.
People don't know it.
Sure.
They were laughing at Italy in terms of what COVID, but I tell people that, do you know Lama Panzula Italy? Those people they're not. We think everything Europe first world. You know, like it's villages. They call themselves countryside. Makaya, they call themselves a country. We're a country, and then they moved, and then all of a sudden politically, and now we call nations and kingdoms countries, but
Sure, same
that's,
thing.
that's the history behind it. Emakaya, they turned Emakaya into a thing, a country. I'm saying country because there's another word which is more, which is more colorful there. But I think having as many parents as possible is the answer. I hear the reference there of the teachers, your coaches, your mentors, people discipling you, your coaches, soccer coaches, your uncles, with so many of those people, as you said, who they assume authority. So you need to find the best of them who have your back, because in the world that we're living in now, whether it's wrong or not, however the community is, it's unfortunately the majority of where we find ourselves now. Yes?
We first need to be able to identify.
Yes.
And that person that you identify needs to assume responsibility.
Yes.
So my dad, even recently, wanted to go speak to my boss to be like, no, while you're working for him, you're under his care. He takes my place as an authority. And I was like, I don't have an authority, not even you. You know, so there are those
Yes.
Dynamics that come into play, which, when I think about it, it isn't really a strange thing. Actually, it's quite cool that my dad would want to do that. You know, to be like, I know you're gonna give me butter and roses and shit, but I want to know your actual progress, what's actually happening at work. Because you're not going there just as Cameron, you're going there as Cameron Peverett, and that's my name that I give you. You know, so, but once again, I grew up with a Western methodology, which I'm unlearning actively, but I need to replace it with something else. And to come to the teachers and
Yes.
you know, the different people in your community that should bear that responsibility. Do they know they have it? Do they know they have that authority? And do they know how to exercise it in a healthy way so that these kids are not violent?
Yes. And just to close off my point before you, before I
I just
give
have a
it back to
one-liner before Nell speaks. Sorry.
All right. It's exactly that, and I like that you're touching on the responsibility, because if someone doesn't have the responsibility, they just don't have it. They may assume the role, they may act. Someone may be sitting in front of your kids and speaking, and you say they're your teacher.
Sure.
But have you actually went to speak to that guy and say, hey, I have a child that gets annoyed when they're around stupid people asking them stupid questions.
Sure.
That's my child. Can you have my child's back?
Sure.
Because though it's a strength, the environment might make it a weakness.
Sure.
And I guess that goes back to that permission where we've allowed, there's so many players or so many parents, as you said, because we are not parenting, doesn't mean that they're not being parented,
Sure.
they're being raised.
Absolutely.
But we're not tying up that network and saying, where is they're going to this church. Have I actually sat down with this pastor and just listen to, like, does this pastor have my child's back?
Sure.
If this pastor has my child's back, the theory, the religion, that doesn't matter at all. Because this person has my child's back.
Sure.
And no matter what they do, they will make sure. And then that's where we don't come into English.
English is running away, bro.
We don't go into these fake, fluffy things that this religion, that religion, this context, but we're really going into, as you said, ubuntu, the person.
Sure.
And we're connecting. This person, are they responsible for me or not? So with women, I'm with you there that they're off the hook, but the people that are on the hook, we now need to go and see who are those people. Do we have permission? Do we give them permission? And do they give us permission, again, to usurp that role as well?
Before Nell speak, one-liner. In the absence of authority figures that your child can identify with, that's where they go to the TV screen, to a Lil Wayne Tupac that looks like me.
Sure.
But he might be talking violence and drugs, and everything then just falls by the wayside because of a white Jesus, a white teacher, a white coach, and your child can't vibe with that person. Sorry, Nels.
Accountability. It's so simple. Accountability. I personally feel like my view on the matter is that I agree with you, man, when you say just because something is permissible doesn't mean that it's good.
Sure.
We live in a society that's just, it's all inclusive, and it wants to make a lot of things, even things that we are not accustomed to, okay.
Jeez.
Right? Before you have children, you have to want to have children. This is the single most liberating truth that I've ever come to learn. Before you have children, you have to want to have children. Even if you enter into a relationship and a child is formed, you have to want the child for yourself. Not for your partner, not for the relationship, but for yourself. And when you want the child for yourself, you are accountable for every action, every decision, everything that the child turns out to be, as long as they're under your care.
Sure.
Whether the fact, we as women, we need to be like, fine, I got pregnant in this situation, but I'm going to have this child because I want to have this child. I'm not having this child because Charlie and I are on good terms, and anyone, like, I'm not having this, I'm not going to have this child for his sake. When you have a child for the sake of other people, people come and go. Whether they go by circumstance or whether they die.
Sure.
At the end of the day, sikusako, yourself are left in that situation with that child. Because you had the child, ngoba you innately wanted that child, you are responsible. You won't abuse this child because you chose this child. You have to choose. Everybody wants to be chosen. Children just want to be chosen. Children who are problematic and they're angry and all of that are children who just want attention.
Sure.
So when a child wants attention, that's all they're saying. Can you choose me? Can you choose me for 5 minutes in your day and just focus on me and find out where am I at right now? And we need to realize that when you decide to have children, you are actually saying everything that I've come to learn and know up until now before you, I'm letting it go. I am letting it go because when you are here, I'm starting afresh. I'm growing with you. If you don't grow with your children, you end up overfeeding them with information that is not necessary for them. So when you grow with a child, you talk to a child at a level that of the child where the child is thinking. You don't go to a 5-year-old and talk to them as if they are 15. You would be exposing them to things that are not useful. You are exposing them to things that they didn't even consider. So you have to take all your experiences, put them aside, and go to the child at their level. Now, before you go to a child at their level, that means you must do a sense of work on yourself. You cannot raise a child if you have not done a sense of work on yourself. You can't impart anything on a child if you have not done any sense of work on yourself. If you have not done any sense of work on yourself, you will impart your angers that you don't know where they stem from.
Sure.
You will impart your views that you don't even know who gave them to you. You will impart societal things that you don't even understand because they are trending. You think it's the right way to do parenting.
Sure.
Because you don't take the time to understand yourself, you will never understand your child. This thing of sons being, they must be tough and hard. I feel like it's a myth to walk into parenting with that thing. Children have personalities. Their personalities don't just become at 16. They become who they've always been. Some boys are sensitive. You go and speak to them. My son, how do you feel? I just feel emotional now. I want to cry. Come, cry. The world is rough. Can it not be rough at home?
Yeah.
Akakhuluma oledi.
Can it not be rough at home?
That's a subject.
He wants to speak. He wanted to speak. Yeah. Yo. Sakhuluma oledi baba. Kumele washuba yonke. Nami ngizumama ngithethisa manje.
Yeah, I just want to add on that as well. Looking at my life, I don't think women are raising monsters or anything like that. I was raised by a single mother. All my life, my father was never there. I grew up playing soccer. There was a time where I needed him. He wasn't there. So in life, was surrounded by women. And I just got to a point whereby I just don't care if my father ever comes back or not, because I reached a decision whereby I told myself, Uguti, I need to grow as a man, and this is how I need to behave and treat other people. So the one thing that I've learned from my family, because from a family whereby I was raised by almost like 4 women, and they always said, go back to your father, build a relationship, try to get him back, I wasn't as and it's always been difficult for me to do that because he was never there, really. But I can't say ukuthi women are raising monsters. I have to say, looking at my life, ukuthi women are actually raising good kids, just looking at myself now. So yeah, I don't think you guys are bad.
Would you then say the society, if we're saying we agreeing, then the society is really doing a bad job if in terms of the men that are around in the community, the way we see them in the community, are they? And yet now we're saying, okay, no, the women are not raising them. So immediately, a boy will start relating to another man. So automatically that they'll start imitating whatever they're seeing. So I'm saying then our society is surrounded with those type of men.
They might all be influenced by media. We were raised on Tupac. Today they've got Young Thug.
Yeah?
So
No, I understand the media part, and then there's
The thing
also...
is, men also have jobs.
No, but I'm saying I'm not.
I had a single dad. My mom died when I was 8.
Okay.
So Undang had 3 kids plus my cousins, and he was doing the most. He'd wake up, he'd cook, he'd go to work, he'd come back, he'd cook, he'd do washing, and then pass out, and then tomorrow he'd do it all again. So he wasn't there the whole day.
Cool.
So we self-raised. TV screen, food is there, we self-raise. Single mothers' kids do the same thing. If Usis tried to enter in a community where you can play, we were in a complex, so when Makantini was hiding from his rape things, and Dondoni was there, and we were all playing around cricket, whatever the case might be. So it's there. You know, whether it's in a gang, which is generally very good as far as family is concerned. The activities are shitty, but they're loyal as fuck. You know, they've got a better idea of ubuntu than the most of us. Exactly, they pick you. So he played soccer, I played rugby, you know, so we find our places where there will be a coach who is a man and who's gonna teach you, but, you know, I had Afrikaans men or white men who were coaching me. So we find our spaces, and I think the idea that society is bad is hilarious, because society is fucking amazing. With all of the issues we have, the fact that we keep our shit together is fucking amazing. It is mind-blowing. So once we understand properly that, guys, as a pleb, which is what most of us are, life has never been this great in the entire history of the last 400 years, according to the white man.
That's true. We're in the greatest time of history right now.
In the last 400 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Black people.
For everyone.
Everyone, including black people.
Including blacks. There has never, no, remember slavery was bad, so now we are free.
Apartheid was bad.
Apartheid was bad, now we are free.
Yeah.
But the issue is that with that freedom came a lack of struggle. And with that lack of struggle came a lack of self-awareness. And with that lack of self-awareness came a lack of everything else.
On what you were saying, yes, some moms and dads go to work and you come back and you are left to your own devices, right? But ukhona umalume who's running the tuck shop, who's exemplary. I think society has forced us to have a default setting that is negative, because that's what's constantly being perpetuated. So as a result, you're not wrong to ask, is then society the problem? Some ways it may be, but our initial default setting is, drugs, all the gangs. No, Malumu runs a tuck shop. He makes sure that he gets kit for the kids. You know, he made the team of the kids ekasi. You know, there's an outlet where these kids can actually detour to, as opposed to just sitting in the corner, basha town. You know what I mean? So there are still good role models within our communities. However, like I said earlier, our societal norms are nonsense because everyone follows. Whatever they dictate is the coolest thing. We're there. If we are not seen wearing a blue shirt with black jeans, like, Exe, what are you doing? That was so lossy. You know what I mean? So we just go with the tide. We need stronger and better moral values and societal norms. So that comes within us creating a safe space of, again, I say like-minded people.
Because like you guys are talking about Abba Malume. When I think of it, I don't even remember one from my surroundings that...
One man that stands out.
No, safe, no.
No, I'm saying you talk about a man.
Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to think of it in that way, but just generally for whether it was for me or for my brother. I mean, I grew up in a home, there's a mother and a father, but I'm still thinking of if utata bengeko, beso tataban, and I don't have anyone that I can think of.
Did your dad do that for other kids?
No, yeah. So that's another thing, Guti. It was a me and mine situation in my hood. I don't want to lie. So there's also that thing I can see in the community. It's me and mine, and we keep it in that way. And it's really messing up the system because we felt like we are a new era of coupling. I don't know what that means. And it's going to be me and my husband and my kids. Because my grandmother actually didn't stay far from where we lived. But I could see that Umama was not about, I must even go stay with her. Because she had her own vendettas with Umama. You know, but she still was there somehow. But I could see that even in my community, it was a me and mine situation. There was no Omalume, the back home, but it's not that solid the way we would like it to be.
And it goes back to what Cameron was saying, and you're saying society is amazing despite all its, because we find our groupings in little spaces we find ourselves in, right? So for me, I come from a Christian background. So I grew up with a mother and a father, but I was lucky enough in the sense that my dad had amazing brothers. Even if my dad were to pass away, I know his brothers are there. He had kind of friends. If my dad was to pass away, they had my back, and he played the role for his friends and their children, all of that.
Solid.
But like you say, this would happen only if within our grouping. But I come from a white neighborhood, okay? White people don't care. I said in my house, like you're saying, it's me and my family, for me, I felt I got a sense of belonging or being when I was around my grouping, people that I could relate to. So, we need to try break the barriers, because now we are living in this world of individualism, if that makes sense.
Sure.
In the sense that once Ntebu makes it, she's going to live in a big house in some estate. She doesn't care whether her cousins are around or not. And that's when we start isolating ourselves, and that's when we overcompensate. When we have to try and raise our children, because now our children are raised by Little Wayne and whoever's new on the screen. Because now we no longer have the village around us. And like I said, it takes a village to raise a child. So for us to have the child and the future man and woman we want, we need that village.
Bring back the village.
Here's what I'm hearing from everyone. Parents don't take account in this child being violent. That's what I'm hearing, and you guys will correct me. Parents don't take account in this child being violent. It's society that takes account.
Yes.
Can we then say, we don't know what makes this person violent? Because if we're saying that it's society, there are many things that are society. There are many things. But what you guys are saying as adults, you're saying that me as the parent of that child, I'm not accountable for that child being a violent. That's what I'm hearing from everyone.
I was absent.
Yeah, you are saying it's society.
Essentially.
But then you're saying that I'm not responsible. You're saying that it's society.
I don't agree with that entirely, but I'll get to the semantics.
Yeah. So at the core of it, then you're saying that. So what is this thing that is society? We can all speak about it. But what is this thing? Then who takes account for the child being the way they are? And if we're saying society, then we're saying that, hey, it's not my responsibility as a parent. That's what you guys are saying. You guys are saying that it's not my responsibility. I am the parent. I give this thing a name and send it, but hey, man, it's too hard. So can you please be clear? Can you answer, guys?
Let me be clear.
Please be clear. What makes this person violent? We cannot say that, no, it's society. Then say as a parent that, you know what, I don't know.
So, parents are responsible. Parents are accountable for their children's behaviors, period. Period. We cannot excuse that. We cannot remove them from the equation. They are responsible. It is not society's responsibility to raise your children.
That's
it's
tough.
not.
That's tough.
No, it's
Bring them into this world.
the society didn't choose them to be here. Society didn't
But
choose
we
them
can
to be
counter
here.
that.
Some parents try their best, and gangs or whatever. It's
Listen,
tough.
so let me get to where I'm going.
Sure.
So another perspective that I'm picking up, ne, is there's this misconception, ne, that society believes that children who are raised in a home with two parents are better off.
Sure.
It is a big myth, that thing.
Yeah.
There are homes that have fathers and mothers, and the one other parent just checks out.
Yes.
They are just not there, but they are physically there, but emotionally, mentally, there's no contribution.
Why is that the father? Sorry, please carry on.
No, but she didn't say it was a father.
Understand? So let me go to a typical lifestyle type of move.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use it towards the father. Typical. A father, if we expect the father to be the provider, the protector of the home and everything, he must secure everything well within the home. When you take on the role of the father and you put it to the woman, you experience the hardship of that role. You experience the extreme demand of that role. It's very difficult to be a woman who is a provider and a mother in the home.
Sure.
It is absolutely challenging. I cannot even describe how challenging it is. It is impossible to be a mother and a provider in the home at the same time. Impossible.
That's us.
You cannot. You need the support structure. So when you are a woman and you want to be a provider, it is your responsibility as the mother to find people to support you. It is not the child's responsibility to suss out who and who and who. It's your responsibility as the mother to check, is this person okay? Is this person okay to be in our home? Is this person okay for me to reach out to them when I cannot pick up my child from school? It's in the small things. It's in the mundane, everyday things, you know? So what I have come to realize is, with my own personal experience, my father is in his 50s now. He stopped working about 5 to 6 years ago. Only now am I experiencing my father as a father.
Sure. He's present now.
He's present now because he doesn't have to provide. He's resting.
Sure.
So he's able to be a father.
Sure.
Most of the years in my growing up, it was my mom who was there. She was present. She didn't have a job. She was a stay-at-home mom. She focused on raising the children. So what I have come to realize is that as parents in the home, there are phases. Even when children grow up, when they grow up when they're young sons, they will be more drawn towards their mother than their father. Naturally. There's phases for parents to be involved in a child's life. When the child becomes a teenager, they feel like, there's certain things I can't talk to my mom about. I have to go to my dad. That is the time where the father has to exercise his role as being the father in the home. You know, so it is important when I say you grow with your children. You leave everything that you thought you knew, you thought you had figured it out, and you actually grow with them through the experience of life. You actually make it okay for them to say, I prefer to speak with dad about this and not with you about that. You make that okay. It's healthy for them to have people that they can reach out to talk to about certain different types of issues. It's okay. It's not so that misconception needs to go.
So, I mean, yes, such truth bombs. The appropriation of responsibility is different from blame. So responsibility, the way I make sense of it for myself, is being responsible. Then I'm responsible because I'm able to respond to whatever need there is. You know, so like you said, I can't be responsible for this. Go speak to your dad. I'm not qualified. I'm not responsible. To say that the one is responsible, being the single mothers, or society is responsible, is creating a separation between the two entities, which they cannot be when we're talking about raising a child. I'm saying that our individual decisions and our thinking of self and our children, to go back to me and mine, if you consider me and mine what came out of your body, then sharp, you can do that. But what about your children's friends? You know, and what about their cousins? You know, what about your own kids' cousins? You know, quite close. There's a belief that every generation is parent to the following one. So my sisters have kids. I don't have any kids of my own, but I feel the pains of parenthood because I have the conversations about, we need to make a plan about which school this child is going to go to. At the moment, I'm not happy with what she's getting at that school. We have those conversations. I weigh in because that's my child also. If you die tomorrow, I need to pick up the pieces and I can't be left behind in the current progress. If you guys can't make it on your own, then talk to us. You've got friends who are godparents. What are the godparents there for? Only when you die. Why not now while you're alive? When she's willing to pay, but your pride gets in the way. Because your idea of self is nanezam. Because of
Sure, definitely.
to come back to your accountability.
That's females, by the way.
Sure.
Sure.
Just
to make
the same.
Wow.
So when we want to appropriate responsibility, then we've got to put it everywhere. Because that's the reality of it. Ubuntu, ngabantu. And then once you resolve the issue of abantu, the rest of the earth is chilled. It's just us that have a problem. So we don't even need to have the conversation. So yes, single mothers have an extraordinary burden. You cannot expect any more of them. Even to say that you should make sure that your child, when? Because that's the other reality. You know, so it is important for us to understand that even for me with my privilege, I take on a massive burden as a human being. Unnecessarily, when I talk to my friends in Stellenbosch, they always tell me, don't sacrifice success for the cause. And I always tell them, for me, the one goes hand in hand with the other. I've had individual success. It doesn't work. It doesn't cover that hole. Because I look back at home and I'm like, yes, sis, I can't with what I have lift all of you. I can't do that. So you can never ever grow on your own. Ubuntu, you can't live without it. And until we go back to that as Africans, when that is your departure point as a human being, that's what I always go back to. What is your departure point? Because that's your God. If you're a Christian, you'll know by when you make a move, an important life decision, wherever you bend your knees, that's your departure point. Shut. Are you living according to that departure point? Have you read your own Bible? Because if you have, you would not be behaving the way you are. I've read your Bible. I've prayed for people and they've been healed with your fucking Bible. But I'm not a Christian because what you guys do is not what I do. So there's a certain responsibility that every individual has to take for their personal life, and then understanding that I can't raise my kids behind high walls because no matter how high. So let me rather strip the wall and come over to your house and have that uncomfortable conversation to be like, all the time. And that's a difficult conversation to have. And it's not gonna fly under the current thinking of individual rights, right? Because that's what we prize above everything else right now, is individual rights. But you can't have esteem. You can't have esteem and not have ubuntu. That reality doesn't exist. Because you can't look at another man's child suffering and feel fuck all to esteem.
Esteem is dignity, by the way.